What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Jake Shavink here. Before we get into the film rooms on the Packers draft picks, want to kind of just do an all-encompassing recap of draft weekend from a Packers perspective, just kind of gloss over the prospects and maybe look at the key takeaways from this draft class and really the master plan I think that Gutekunst and company have. So obviously the Lucas Van Ness pick is a classic Packers selection, right? You know, you're kind of being proactive, planning for the future. You know, you don't know about Preston Smith, how long he's going to be around. You think Enagbare is a good third option. You know, Gary's injury and obviously subsequent extension perhaps coming this offseason or during the season, we'll see. But I think Lucas Van Ness is the consummate play for 2024, and that's something the Packers often do, right? Whether it be a tackle, edge, safety, kind of whatever that they might be looking at. Green Bay just does this, and that's the way they operate, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about it from that kind of perspective, right? And then you look at, you know, the patience they had, you know, in finding pass catchers, right? Attack day two was for Jordan Love. That's what it was, right? You look at Musgrave as the height, weight, speed guy. Jaden Reed as a twitchy separator that has another gear to win vertically, right? And another speedy guy that can help out the vertical passing game and maybe be, you know, a guy who can make an impact as really almost a trend breaker. He was right on that cusp, right? When you look at where if the Packers had interest in Olave, Jaden Reed wasn't that far off from him in terms of measurables. And then obviously Tucker Kraft, right? The double down at tight end. We kind of talked about it here on the channel a bit, and I was pretty thrilled with those three picks. And then day three, you know, you look at what the Packers did there. They got their kicker for one, right? That was a big talking point heading into the offseason, but they also grabbed two defensive linemen or edge rushers, whatever you want to call them, as guys who can be versatile up and down the line in Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks, right? So two interior pass rushers who can kind of get after the quarterback, you know, from different alignments, and as can Van Ness, really. So there's kind of three versatile defensive linemen that Goody selects for Joe Barry there, and then you get, you know, the running back kind of add to the room, a little bit of depth. Lou Nichols, right, extremely productive from Central Michigan, especially in 2021. A huge season for him of 1,800 yards. And then again, you know, two more receivers, right? Dontavian Wicks, Grant Dubose. A lot of Dubose fans were waiting for that selection when it came through. And I think, you know, triple dipping at receiver 2 years in a row. I think Goody has understood the assignment, truthfully, in that regard. And then obviously two more DBs, right? Goody talked about it. Edge, tight end, cornerback. And then he grabs a pair of them. Anthony Johnson's kind of, you can look at him as a slot corner, maybe hybrid defensive back. He's played some safety, right? He was initially a corner at Iowa State. And then Carrington Valentine, who has played corner at Kentucky, right? So Goody made all of these picks, right? Especially, you know, kind of crazy that he made 9 selections on day 3. That was pretty wild to think about. But overall, like the class as a whole, you see the commitment to areas of need, and you see a commitment to maybe a team that wants to be better at getting after the quarterback. So what are some just kind of encompassing thoughts as we kind of finish up, right? Like kind of put a cap on the draft a little bit. I think the first thing is Goody is at least not going to be, he wasn't proactive, and he's confident where the offensive line is right now. And that's very interesting because you usually see Goody attack offensive line, especially on day 3, even if it's just a throw a pick there. Didn't do it at all. And that's kind of shocking to me, especially because when you talk about the Packers being proactive, right, they didn't do that at tackle. And tackle was a little shallower this year, so it was kind of round 1 or maybe a dart throw on day 3. That was kind of the outlook on the class. But I'll definitely take the L and not a tackle at all in this draft, even an offensive lineman, which is kind of surprising, especially at center. So I'll take the L there, but I thought, you know, they might get proactive a little bit with Nyman and Bakhtiari potentially not being on the books in 2024. We'll see, right? They obviously have belief in Zach Tom. Maybe they got more belief than I do in the tackles that really haven't made a lot of starts, right, and just kind of appeared in preseason. So that's just something, obviously a big takeaway there. But the next one is obviously let's see what Jordan Love's got. And I think you can make an argument that the 3 players that they selected might all get playing time this year, might all make the team. I think Samori Toure is on watch for sure. Bo Melton might be as well, right? You look at Bo Melton as more of an undersized slot player. They selected Jaden Reed, and I think he's going to kind of potentially usurp that role that Melton might have had. And you look at Dontavian Wicks, who's a bigger guy who had a big season in 2021, 57 catches, 1,203 yards, 9 touchdowns. That's a big big number for him. And I think if he kind of reclaims that a little bit and cuts the drops that occurred in 2022, he's looking at, some playing time as well in kind of the mold that Romeo Doubs has. So you get Watson and Reed down the field. You get Musgrave as kind of an antelope threatening up the seam, and Kraft as an able and willing blocker, but also a phenomenal receiver, great elusiveness. So the pass catchers look great. And I think even if it's, they're young, but it's, again, a play for 2024. And, the tight ends, honestly, they might not get a lot of reps in line, and they might be more viewed as receivers early on, as chain movers over the middle of the field to help Jordan Love out. Which brings me, I think, to another big takeaway other than the offensive line comment, but it was, Mercedes Lewis might just be back, right? And there's openings, right? Packers have some cap room to work with a little bit. So we'll see if they make any free agent signings anytime soon, but I think Mercedes Lewis coming back would be a huge deal, right? It gives you an immediate blocker in line, which, I think Kraft can get there, but we'll see. So I think bringing Lewis back is an important deal for them, especially. I think when you look at what Lewis is going to provide you, right, and you look at maybe, again, I know all the weapons, but also Aaron Jones coming back on a pay cut, A.J. Dillon, Lou Nichols. This could be the kind of start of, all right, run against these, quarters, too high shells, and they could be really capitalizing on that cyclical kind of movement in the NFL right now and going big up front to kind of, run it down your throat a little bit more. And that's something that obviously Green Bay did really well against Buffalo, Philly, Dallas when you look at last season. So I think that commitment is still there. So I think Lewis coming back is potentially a big takeaway. I think the Packers are fine with their safety room. We'll see if Adrian Amos comes back, but I think they're going to see what they have mode. I think there's a lot at corner to be excited about now, especially, Valentine and Johnson joining the group. Johnson could be that kind of hybrid DB, you're looking at. You get an eval year of Savage. So the secondary is in an interesting place, but I think the biggest takeaway for me anyway is the defensive line, and especially because of the three players they selected. And when you look at Wooden, who's, he's talked about bringing up weight, like he's getting up from 273, he's up to 283. He might get to 290. That still puts him at like a pass rushing type, right? And they have Clark and Wyatt in the room. And, Carl Brooks, dude who was extremely powerful, a lot of pressures in college, graded highly by PFF. He moved around a lot, 1 tech, 3 tech, 5 tech. So he was rushing from everywhere. We'll see. I mean, Van Ness had reps on the inside. He had reps over the center, which is kind of wild to see on his film. So, the Packers might be getting a little more multiple with their fronts. They might mix it up a little bit more. But what I think the other part of defensive line is I'm surprised they didn't grab a nose tackle. We're still through, I think, the UDFA process. There were a couple guys that reached undrafted free agency that I thought they might bring in. But it'll be interesting. Maybe the belief is in TJ Slayton, but also the Packers low-key might be being a little more productive in terms of like, okay, Kenny Clark hasn't been really up to par in terms of his play recently, and they might be grabbing some guys who might, take his place in the long term. So just something to watch there as well. But I think overall, you want to encompass this in one thing. It's future build, right? It's we're going to see what this class really has in 24 and 25. And that's just normally how it is, right? You think that's pretty cliche when you think about it, right? Because draft classes don't get evaluated for 3 years. But we're going to honestly really see what this class has in 2024, maybe later in that year, and for sure in 2025, right? Lucas Van Ness, a little bit more raw, right? Needs to refine a little bit more as a pass rusher. Same with Wooden, same with Brooks, right? Brooks is a little bit more refinement, but he's a disruptor. Tight ends take a while. That's just how it goes, right? So especially with those picks right there, you're looking at, okay, we're building for 2024, 2025. Same at receiver, right? These guys are young. It's a young room. So I think that's really when you look at what the Packers are doing right now. They might view Jordan Love as, okay, we're going to actually extend him or pick up that 5th-year option. They don't got much time until that's needed to be picked up. So we'll see on that. But maybe they really are believing in Jordan Love, and they realize that this is just going to take some time. So hope you guys enjoyed this little video on kind of recapping the Packers draft. Like I said, stay tuned. Film rooms are coming really soon in quick order. So I hope you guys enjoy those. Plenty of post-draft content on the way, and then we're still into film rooms all summer long, so I hope you guys stick around for that. Like and sub. I will catch you guys in the next video. Farewell.